At a family dinner, they humiliated her. His sister threw leftover food at her pregnant stomach, unaware that the woman they were humiliating was the daughter of the trillion-dollar bank owner, who controlled every account they depended on. Then the bank alerts hit. Phones started vibrating. Faces went pale. And suddenly, everyone in that mansion dropped to their knees. Stay till the end. Subscribe to this channel and watch how one quiet phone call turns cruelty into consequences, and silence into power. The porcelain plate shattered against the wall behind Clara Blackwood's head. "Pick it up," Lydia said, her voice light, almost amused. "Since you're so good at cleaning up messes." The room went silent except for the faint clink of crystal glasses and the slow, uneven sound of Clara's breathing. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just froze, one hand instinctively covering her swollen belly as gravy slid down the front of her dress and dripped onto the marble floor. "Lydia," someone laughed nervously, "she's pregnant." "So?" Lydia shrugged, pushing her chair back with her heel. "That didn't stop her from trapping my brother, did it?" Clara turned her head slowly toward her husband. Henry didn't look at her. He stared down at his plate like it held the answer to everything, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. He didn't stand. He didn't speak. He didn't even reach for her hand. And in that moment, Clara understood something with terrifying clarity. This wasn't a family dinner. This was an execution. The Blackwood dining room gleamed the way only old money rooms did. Walls lined with oil paintings of men who'd never been told no, a table long enough to seat a small board of directors, chandeliers glowing softly over plates that cost more than most people's rent. Clara had spent the entire evening feeling like a stain they were trying to scrub out. She had worn her simplest dress. Navy blue. No jewelry except her wedding ring. She'd told herself it didn't matter. That humility would soften them. It hadn't. Maureen Blackwood dabbed her lips with a linen napkin and sighed. "Honestly, Henry, I warned you. You bring someone fragile into this family, and they crumble under pressure." Clara swallowed. Her throat burned. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," she said quietly. "If I did something wrong." Lydia laughed again, sharp and cruel. "Oh my God, listen to her. Always the victim." "I think what Lydia's saying," Maureen continued calmly, "is that women who marry into families like ours need thicker skin. If she can't handle a little teasing, how is she supposed to raise a Blackwood child?" Clara's fingers trembled as she wiped gravy from her wrist. Henry still hadn't looked up. Earlier that morning, he'd stood in the doorway of their bedroom with his arms crossed while she sat on the edge of the bed holding a prescription slip. "They're just vitamins," he'd said. "You don't need the expensive ones." "They're prenatal," Clara had replied. "The doctor said they're important. It's $20. $20 here, $20 there," Henry scoffed. "That's how people stay broke. You really need to learn responsibility." She had stared at him, stunned. "I don't have access to the account." "That's because you don't work," he snapped. "And don't start with that look. You chose to stop working. You told me to." She hadn't said it out loud. She'd learned quickly which truths weren't allowed in their marriage. At the table now, Maureen leaned forward slightly. "You know, Clara, I heard you grew up modestly." Clara nodded. "Yes, ma'am." "And your parents?" Lydia chimed in. "What do they do again?" "My father works in finance," Clara said. Lydia snorted. "Of course he does. Everyone works in finance." "What is he, a teller?" More laughter. Maureen smiled thinly. "You should be grateful, dear. Henry has given you a life you never could have had on your own." Clara finally looked at her husband. Henry. For a split second, their eyes met. There was something there. Panic, maybe. Fear. But it vanished just as quickly, replaced by irritation. "Can we not do this right now?" he muttered. "Just ignore it. Ignore it." The word echoed in her head as Lydia stood, scraped a fork across her plate, and flicked a chunk of leftover food toward Clara like she was feeding an animal. That was when the plate flew. Gravy, potatoes, meat, all over her. Someone gasped. Someone else laughed. Clara pushed her chair back slowly and stood, her heart pounding so hard she felt dizzy. "I think I need to sit down," she whispered, one hand pressed to her stomach. Maureen didn't move. "You're being dramatic." Clara's vision blurred. And then, in the middle of the chaos, her phone vibrated in her pocket. Once. She ignored it. It vibrated again. Henry finally looked up, annoyance flashing across his face. "Seriously? You're checking your phone now?" Clara met his gaze, and for the first time that night, her voice didn't shake. "I need to make a call." Maureen's lips curled. "To whom?" "Your mother. To cry about how awful we are." Clara didn't answer. She walked out of the dining room, her steps steady despite the weight of a dozen eyes burning into her back. In the hallway, beneath a portrait of Henry's grandfather, she pulled out her phone. Her hands hovered over the screen. She hadn't called him in 2 years. The last time, she'd sworn she would never need him again. That she wanted a normal life. That she didn't want power hanging over her marriage like a weapon. But as another laugh echoed from the dining room, Lydia's voice, mocking, cruel, Clara pressed the call button. "Clara," her father answered on the second ring. Her throat closed. "Dad," she whispered. "I need help." There was a pause. Then his voice changed. Sharper. Focused. Dangerous. "Are you safe?" "No," she said honestly. "Where are you?" She told him. "Put your phone on speaker," he said. "And go back inside." Clara hesitated. "Dad, trust me." She turned around. As she stepped back into the dining room, conversations stopped mid-sentence. Lydia smirked. Maureen raised an eyebrow. Henry frowned. "What are you doing?" Clara didn't sit. She placed her phone on the edge of the table. "Good evening," her father's voice filled the room, calm and unmistakably authoritative. "This is Clinton Hale." Maureen stiffened. "And who exactly do you think you are?" There was a soft sound on the line, like a keyboard being tapped. "I'm the man who oversees the accounts that keep this family solvent," Clinton said evenly. "And I'm the reason your notifications are about to start buzzing." Clara's phone vibrated. Then Henry's. Then Lydia's. Then Maureen's. One by one, screens lit up across the table. Henry stared at his phone, color draining from his face. "What the hell is this?" Clinton's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. All Blackwood-linked accounts have been temporarily frozen pending review. Maureen stood so fast her chair toppled backward. "You can't do that." "Oh," Clinton replied. "I already did." Clara looked at her husband. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked small. If this story is hitting too close to home, if you've ever watched someone you love be humiliated while everyone else stayed silent, don't look away. Stories like this don't end with screaming. They end with choices. And if you want to see what happens when silence finally breaks, stay with me. Subscribe. Because this is only the beginning. Henry's phone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the table. "Clara," he whispered. "What did you do?" Henry's phone lay face up on the table, vibrating again and again like it was alive. "No," Maureen said, her voice thin with disbelief. "This is some kind of mistake." Lydia was already scrolling frantically, manicured nails tapping the screen. "My card just declined." "That's impossible. I used it this morning." Clara didn't sit down. She stayed standing at the end of the table, one hand resting on her belly, the other gripping the edge of a chair to keep herself steady. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a slow, nauseating calm. Clinton's voice came through the speaker, measured and unhurried. "It's not a mistake. It's a temporary compliance hold." Robert Blackwood finally spoke, his voice low and sharp. You can't freeze assets without cause. I can, Clinton replied, when irregular activity triggers a mandatory review, and when the account holder's conduct raises concern about fiduciary misuse. Maureen scoffed. This is extortion. This, Clinton said, is oversight. Henry pushed his chair back and stood, running a hand through his hair. Clara, tell him to stop. This has gone far enough. She looked at him, really looked at him. The man who had lectured her about responsibility while secretly controlling every dollar she touched. The man who had watched food hit his pregnant wife and done nothing. $20, she said quietly. Henry blinked. What? That's what you refused me this morning, she continued. $20 for prenatal vitamins. Maureen waved a dismissive hand. Oh, for heaven's sake, are we still on about that? Clara turned to her. Your grandson needs folic acid to develop his spine. Silence stretched across the table. Clinton spoke again, his tone colder now. Clara told me about the denial of medical support. I also see repeated cash withdrawals from a joint account she doesn't have access to. Henry stiffened. That's private. It stopped being private when you used shared funds without disclosure, Clinton said. $15,000 over 3 months. Lydia's head snapped up. What? Henry's face flushed. That money was for expenses. What expenses? Clara asked. He didn't answer. Maureen stepped forward, pointing at Clara like she was the problem. You ungrateful girl. After everything we've given you, you try to destroy this family over vitamins. Clara's chest tightened. For a moment, she almost laughed. Destroy? You destroyed it yourselves, she said. I just stopped pretending not to see it. Robert slammed his palm on the table. This is ridiculous. We have contracts, employees, ongoing projects. Clinton exhaled softly. Then you should have been more careful with your books. Lydia's voice cracked. Dad, my cards. None of them work. Maureen rounded on Henry. Fix this. He turned to Clara, desperation seeping into his eyes. Please. Just tell him to reverse it. We can talk about this. We can go to counseling. I'll get the vitamins tomorrow. Tomorrow. The word made something snap inside her. Tomorrow doesn't grow a baby today, Clara said. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a bank alert. It was a text from the pharmacy she'd visited that morning. Prescription still unfilled. She showed Henry the screen. You watched me walk out of that store empty-handed, she said. And you went to dinner like nothing was wrong. Maureen's voice rose. Stop dramatizing. Clinton cut in. Maureen, you charged personal expenses to a charitable foundation last quarter. Maureen froze. What? Lydia whispered. Clinton continued calmly. Luxury travel. Jewelry. Dining. That foundation exists to fund medical grants. Robert's face went ashen. That's a lie. I have the receipts, Clinton said. And the audit has already begun. The room felt smaller. Heavier. Henry's knees hit the chair behind him as he sank. Clara, he said hoarsely, I didn't know it was this bad. She tilted her head. You didn't want to know. Another phone buzzed. Then another. Lydia's voice shook. They're saying my accounts are under review too. Clinton didn't hesitate. Any account tied to Blackwood family trusts is included. Maureen's composure was shattered. She grabbed the back of a chair, her voice rising into a shrill edge. You can't humiliate us like this. Clara felt a bitter, aching irony twist in her chest. Humiliate. She thought of gravy dripping down her dress. Of laughter. Of silence. You humiliated yourselves, Clara said. I just stopped cleaning it up. Henry stood again, moving toward her. I love you. She stepped back. Love doesn't look like control, she said. It doesn't look like silence. Clinton's voice softened slightly. Clara, I need to know what you want. Every eye in the room turned to her. She took a breath. I want accountability, she said. And I want it now. Maureen scoffed, but her voice trembled. You think you can just walk in here and dictate terms? Clara met her gaze. You did it to me for 2 years. Clinton spoke. The freeze will remain in place for 72 hours. Robert exploded. You're ruining us. No, Clinton replied evenly. I'm giving you time. Henry looked like he might collapse. Time for what? For you to decide who you really are, Clara said. Her phone buzzed again. A new notification appeared on Henry's screen. Compliance investigation initiated. Henry's breath hitched. Clara, please. She didn't answer. If you've ever been told to stay quiet to keep the peace, if you've ever watched someone twist your needs into inconveniences, don't turn away now. People like this only understand consequences. And the next one is coming. Clara turned toward the door. Behind her, Maureen's voice broke into something raw. You can't just leave. Clara paused, her hand on the handle. I already did, she said. And then she walked out, unaware that what would surface next would make the frozen accounts feel like mercy. Cold air hit Clara's face the moment the front door closed behind her, sharp enough to sting. For a second, her knees buckled. She steadied herself against the stone railing, breathing through the tightness in her chest, one hand pressed protectively over her stomach. The house behind her glowed warm and golden, the picture of comfort and wealth. From the outside, it looked untouched. Perfect. Inside, everything was cracking. Her phone buzzed again. Not an alert this time. Henry. She didn't answer. She walked down the front steps slowly, deliberately, every step a reminder that she was still shaking, not from fear, but from the release of something she'd been carrying for too long. Clara. She turned. Henry stood in the doorway, tie loosened, face pale. For once, there was no audience to perform for. Please, he said. Don't do this like this. She folded her arms, keeping a distance between them. Like what? Like I'm the enemy. You made yourself one, she said quietly. He flinched. I never meant for them to hurt you. You let them. The words landed harder than any plate. He ran a hand over his face. I was trying to keep the peace. With who? She asked. Because it wasn't with me. Inside the house, a crash echoed, something breaking. Lydia's voice followed, shrill and panicked. Henry glanced back, then at Clara again. They're losing everything. Clara's jaw tightened. They're losing control. That money, it's complicated, he said. My parents, the business. Our child, she interrupted. Isn't complicated. For the first time, he had no answer. Her phone rang. Dad. She answered this time. I'm outside. I know, Clinton said. I have eyes on the property. She didn't ask how. I'm not going back in, she said. You don't need to, he replied. A car is on the way. Henry's head snapped up. You're leaving. Yes. Tonight. The realization seemed to hollow him out. You can't just disappear. I disappeared a long time ago, she said. You just didn't notice. His phone buzzed again. Then again. He looked down, his face draining of color with each notification. They're flagging my personal account now. Clinton's voice came through Clara's speaker, calm and unyielding. Because you moved joint funds into it 3 weeks ago. Henry froze. You said you wouldn't. I said I'd review everything, Clinton corrected. You assumed immunity. Clara felt something twist in her chest. Not satisfaction, not relief. Clarity. How much? She asked. Clinton paused. $6,000. Hotel charges. Dining. Entertainment. Henry's mouth opened, closed. Clara stared at him. While I was counting coins at the pharmacy. I can explain, he said quickly. It was business. Networking. Networking doesn't leave lipstick on receipts, Clinton said. Silence fell like a dropped curtain. Henry's shoulders sagged. It wasn't what you thought. Clara laughed then, a soft, broken sound she didn't recognize as her own. That's the problem. It's exactly what I think. From inside the house, Maureen's voice rang out, sharp and hysterical. Henry. Fix this. Tell her to stop him. He didn't move. Clara's phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. You think you've won? You'll regret this. She stared at the screen. Dad, she said slowly. They're threatening me. Clinton's tone shifted instantly. Send it. She did. Good, he said. That helps. Henry's eyes widened. What helps? Clinton answered him directly. Intimidation during a financial review complicates things. Maureen appeared in the doorway, hair disheveled, composure gone. You can't take everything from us. Clara met her gaze across the distance. You took pieces of me for 2 years. Maureen scoffed weakly. You're nothing without this family. Clara felt the baby shift beneath her hand, a gentle reminder of what mattered. I'm everything without you, she said. Headlights swept across the driveway. A black sedan rolled to a stop at the curb. Henry took a step forward. Clara, if you leave now. She raised a hand. This is where you listen. He stopped. You don't get access to me, she said. Not until I see who you are when no one's watching. His voice broke. I'll do anything. She nodded once. Then start by telling the truth. The driver stepped out and opened the rear door. Clara walked toward the car, her spine straight, her hands steady. As she slid into the seat, her phone buzzed one last time. Audit expansion approved. She looked back at the house, at the man standing frozen in the doorway, at the family unraveling behind him. If you've ever been made to feel small so someone else could feel powerful, don't forget this moment. Silence protects them. Walking away is how the truth finally catches up. The car door closed. And as the sedan pulled away, Clara didn't see the message that landed on Henry's phone seconds later, one that would turn his fear into pure panic. The sedan glided through the gates and onto the dark road, the house shrinking behind them until it was nothing more than a glow on the hill. Clara exhaled for the first time in hours. Her phone rested in her lap, screen lit with notifications she hadn't opened yet. She didn't need to. She could feel the shift, the invisible machinery finally grinding into motion. Clinton's voice came through the speaker again, steady as ever. How are you feeling? Tired, she admitted. But clear. That clarity matters, he said. Because what happens next will test everyone involved. The city lights blurred past the window. Clara watched them in silence until another vibration broke through. This time, it wasn't Henry. It was a secure message marked priority. Clinton didn't need to ask. Read it. Clara opened it. Preliminary findings indicate material misrepresentation across Blackwood construction accounts. Evidence of fund diversion and delayed contractor payments. Recommendation: escalate review to federal compliance partners. Her stomach tightened. So it's worse than we thought, she said. Yes, Clinton replied. And your dinner wasn't an isolated incident. It was behavior enabled by years of believing no one would ever push back. Clara closed her eyes briefly. At the house, Henry stood in the driveway long after the car disappeared, his phone pressed to his ear. No answer. He tried again. Straight to voicemail. Inside, chaos had taken over. Maureen paced the dining room, heels clicking sharply against marble. This is your fault, she snapped at Robert. I told you to keep everything clean. Robert slammed a drawer shut. I told you not to touch the foundation. Lydia sat on the floor, her back against the wall, Mascara streaked down her face. My bank just called. They want explanations. Maureen rounded on her. Stop crying. Henry walked in slowly, his face hollow. They're expanding the audit, he said. Robert froze. How do you know? Because I just got notified, Henry replied. My personal account is locked pending review. Maureen stared at him. What did you do? He didn't answer. Lydia looked up sharply. Henry. He rubbed his temples. I moved money. I was going to put it back. Maureen's voice rose into something shrill and desperate. You stole from your own wife. She's my wife, he snapped. It was our money. Robert laughed bitterly. Not anymore. The house phone rang. No one moved. It rang again. Robert picked it up with trembling fingers. This is Robert Blackwood. Mr. Blackwood, a calm female voice said. This is special compliance. We'll need you available for an interview tomorrow morning. Maureen grabbed his arm. What does that mean? Robert swallowed. It means this isn't going away. At the same moment, Clara's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a voicemail notification, from Henry. She didn't open it. Clinton spoke softly. You don't have to listen to anything you're not ready for. I know, she said. But I want to hear who he becomes under pressure. She pressed play. Henry's voice came through, raw and uneven. Clara, please. I know I failed you. I know I should have stood up for you. I was scared, okay? I didn't want to lose my family. She scoffed quietly. You are my family, his voice continued. And I'm losing you. The message ended. Clara stared at the dark screen. He's afraid now, she said. Yes, Clinton replied. Fear reveals priorities. Another message came in immediately after. From Maureen. You think humiliating us makes you powerful? You'll regret turning against us. Clara felt heat rush through her chest. Not panic, not shame. Anger. She handed the phone back to the driver, who passed it to Clinton through the partition without a word. Clinton's voice hardened. That message will be logged. Dad, Clara said, suddenly exhausted. I don't want to destroy them. I know, he replied. That's why you're in control. The car turned onto a quieter road, trees lining the sides like silent witnesses. What happens now? Clara asked. Now, Clinton said, they learn consequences without you having to raise your voice. At the house, Lydia's phone rang. She answered with shaking hands. Hello. Her face drained of color. What do you mean I'm suspended? Maureen spun around. Suspended from what? My job, Lydia whispered. They said my name came up in a compliance review. They're putting me on unpaid leave. Maureen let out a sound that was half sob, half scream. Henry slid down onto a chair, staring at the floor. The power they'd wielded so casually, money, silence, humiliation, was gone. And without it, there was nothing left to hide behind. Clara rested her head against the seat, eyes closed. If you've ever been told to endure mistreatment to keep things stable, if you've ever been pressured to stay quiet so someone else wouldn't be uncomfortable, remember this. Stability built on your suffering is not stability at all. Her phone vibrated one last time. Clinton read the message before speaking. They're requesting an emergency meeting, he said. All of them. Tonight. Clara opened her eyes. Together. Yes. She stared out the window, watching the road stretch forward. Good, she said. They begged for silence before. Clinton paused. Are you sure you're ready? She placed both hands over her belly, grounding herself. I'm done begging, she said. The car slowed as they approached the gate to Clinton's estate. Behind them, miles away, the Blackwood family gathered in their crumbling dining room, rehearsing apologies they didn't yet understand, unaware that the meeting they'd requested would force them to their knees in ways they never imagined. And for the first time, Clara didn't wonder if she was doing the right thing. She knew the next move would change everything. The meeting didn't happen in a boardroom. That alone rattled them. The Blackwoods were escorted through the side entrance of Clinton Hale's estate, past manicured hedges and silent security, into a private sitting room with no long table to hide behind, no assistants hovering, no glass walls to project power. Just low chairs, soft lighting, and the quiet understanding that nothing said here would ever leave this room without consequences. They arrived one by one. Maureen first, chin lifted, spine rigid, dignity worn like armor that no longer fit. Robert followed, slower than usual, his confidence leaking out through the careful way he avoided eye contact. Lydia trailed behind them, pale, eyes swollen from crying, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Henry came last. He stopped short when he saw Clara already seated. She didn't stand. She didn't smile. She simply looked at him, the way one looks at something once familiar and now painfully exposed. Clinton entered without announcement and closed the door behind him. "Sit," he said. They did. No one argued. For a moment, there was only the sound of breathing. Shallow. Uneven. Clinton broke the silence. "This is not a negotiation." Maureen scoffed, though her voice lacked its usual bite. "Then why are we here?" "Because," Clinton replied calmly, "you asked for mercy." Lydia let out a shaky sob. "We didn't know it would get this bad." Clara tilted her head. "You didn't know silence had a price." Maureen's eyes flashed. "You orchestrated this." "No," Clara said. "You did. I just stopped absorbing the damage." Clinton slid a folder onto the table. Thick. Heavy. Robert stared at it as if it might explode. "What's that?" "An outline," Clinton said, "of what happens if this continues without intervention." He opened it. Federal charges. Civil liability. Public exposure. Asset forfeiture. Lydia gasped. Maureen's hands trembled for the first time. "You wouldn't." Clinton looked at her. "You charged luxury expenses to a medical foundation." She stiffened. "I was reimbursing myself." "For donations you never made," he replied. Henry finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "This isn't about them. This is about Clara." Clara's gaze didn't soften. "This is about who you chose to protect." Clinton nodded. "Which brings us to conditions." Maureen leaned forward. "Conditions." Clinton closed the folder. 72 hours. Robert exhaled sharply. "For what?" "For you to demonstrate accountability," Clinton said. "Not apologies. Not excuses. Action." Clara spoke next, her voice steady, unyielding. "Contractors paid in full. Immediately." Robert swallowed. "That will wipe our liquidity." "You should have thought of that before underpaying them," she said. Clinton continued. "The foundation funds repaid. Every dollar." Maureen's lips parted. "I'll need time." "You have 72 hours," Clara repeated. Lydia wiped her cheeks. "What about me?" Clara looked at her. "You find a job. Once you earn. And you repay what you spent." Lydia nodded frantically. "I will. I swear." Henry leaned forward, desperation creeping into his voice. "And me." Clara met his eyes. "You start telling the truth," she said. "To yourself first." Clinton added, "Individual therapy. Mandatory. With a licensed professional of our choosing." Henry nodded immediately. "Anything." Maureen's composure cracked. "You're tearing this family apart." Clara's voice sharpened. "No. I'm removing the illusion that kept it intact." Clinton stood. "If these conditions are met, personal accounts will be unfrozen. Business accounts remain under audit." Robert's shoulders slumped. "And if we refuse?" Clinton didn't hesitate. "Then the process continues." Silence swallowed the room. Maureen looked at Clara, something ugly and pleading tangled in her expression. You're enjoying this? Clara stood. The room seemed to shrink around her. I was humiliated at your table, she said quietly. Food on my dress. Laughter in my ears. My husband is silent. I asked for $20 for my child's health and was told to learn responsibility. She paused, letting it land. This, she said, gesturing around the room, isn't enjoyment. It's self-respect. Henry's eyes filled. I failed you. Yes, she said. And failure has consequences. Clinton opened the door. You have your terms. Maureen's knees buckled slightly as she stood. Lydia reached out to steady her. As they filed out, Henry lingered. Clara, he whispered. If I do everything, is there a chance? She didn't answer immediately. She placed a hand over her belly, grounding herself. There's a chance, she said finally, if I see change without supervision. His breath hitched. I'll prove it. She nodded once. Then start. The door closed behind them. Clara exhaled slowly. Clinton turned to her. You did well. She sank back into the chair. It doesn't feel like victory. It isn't, he said. It's protection. Her phone buzzed. A new notification appeared, marked urgent. Clinton glanced at it, his expression shifting. What? Clara asked. He read silently, then looked up. Someone leaked information, he said. Not enough to go public, but enough to cause panic. Her pulse quickened. Who? Clinton's jaw tightened. Henry's personal account shows a transfer attempt 10 minutes ago. Clara's heart dropped. After everything, she whispered. Clinton met her gaze. The next 72 hours will tell you everything you need to know. If you've ever given someone a final chance, only to watch them test the limits, don't look away now. This is where the truth comes out. And what Henry does next will decide whether this story ends in redemption or ruin. The office lights were still on when Clara arrived the next morning. The Blackwood construction building loomed over the street, all glass and steel, gleaming like a trophy. But the energy inside was fractured, tense, like a storm trapped under a roof. Robert Blackwood was the first to meet her eyes. His posture was stiff, jaw tight, hands gripping the edge of his mahogany desk. He hadn't slept. She could see it in the shadows under his eyes, in the tremor in his fingers. Clara, he said, his voice low, almost pleading. You've done enough. You don't need to. Enough, she interrupted, voice calm but sharp. You call deliberate sabotage, underpaid contractors, and hiding money from your own wife enough? He flinched. I'm here to see accountability, she said, stepping forward. Not excuses. Not apologies. Action. Maureen appeared behind him, perfect coiffure slightly disheveled, the veneer of control slipping. We've been humiliated enough already, she said. Can't we resolve this quietly? Clara shook her head. Quiet resolves nothing. Silence feeds abuse. I want transparency. I want every penny accounted for. And I want it now. Lydia stood in the corner, looking pale and fragile, phone in hand. I'll cooperate, she whispered. I'll do whatever it takes. Good, Clara said. Start with honesty. Robert swallowed hard. You can't just. I can, Clara interrupted, cutting him off before he could launch into another excuse. Because you've made me invisible for 2 years. You mocked me, denied me basic needs, and let your family humiliate me in my own home while my husband watched. Henry appeared then, hesitant, guilt written across every line of his face. Clara, please. She held up a hand. Not yet. Clinton's voice came from her earpiece, calm, steady. Remember, this isn't vengeance. It's accountability. Watch closely. Let them unravel without breaking your control. Clara nodded slightly, taking a breath. Now, Robert, begin with the contractor payments. Robert glanced at Maureen, who said nothing. He opened a drawer, pulling out stacks of invoices, receipts, and checks. All payments. I've tried to reconcile. Try isn't enough, Clara said. Action is. The air in the office thickened. Lydia's phone buzzed, and she froze, reading an urgent alert. Accounts flagged for improper transfers. Her face went white. Oh God. Maureen's voice rose. You're making my daughter suffer because of you. My family. Clara's gaze was icy. Your family's suffering is a result of your own choices. Not mine. Henry's shoulders slumped. Clara, please. I've started the therapy. I'm paying back what I took. You should have thought about that before letting her go without prenatal vitamins, Clara said softly. A silence fell that could have been cut with a knife. Then the office phones buzzed simultaneously. Another alert. Federal investigators had placed a temporary hold on Blackwood Construction's accounts pending compliance verification. Maureen gasped. This is illegal. No, Clara said, voice low and unwavering. It's consequences. This is exactly what happens when no one holds you accountable for years of negligence, abuse, and dishonesty. Robert's hands shook as he stacked invoices, the sound of paper rattling like distant thunder. We can fix this. We just need time. You had time, Clara said. You had every chance. You wasted it. Henry's voice cracked. Clara, don't push them too far. They're desperate. They should be, she replied. Maybe desperation is what finally teaches them integrity. The tension broke only when Lydia whispered, trembling. I can't pay everything back immediately. Clara took a slow step closer. Then start now. Start showing responsibility. Every choice matters, and you will be judged by them. Her phone buzzed again. Clinton's voice cut through. Clara, there's a new development. She opened the alert. A whistleblower inside Blackwood Construction had forwarded critical financial documents to investigators, evidence of intentional misappropriation. The room went still. Maureen's face paled. Robert's jaw dropped. Lydia's knees buckled. Henry froze mid-step. Clara folded her arms over her belly. This is what happens when you think you can manipulate people without consequences. This is what accountability looks like. The phones buzzed again, emails arriving with the same chilling tone. The audit was escalating. Notices to contractors, compliance officers, and even press inquiries were being logged. Maureen's voice was a whisper now, pleading. Clara, mercy. Please, don't ruin us completely. Clara shook her head slowly. Mercy comes after accountability. You've had years to prove worth. You failed. Henry's eyes pleaded with her. Please, don't go too far. I want to make this right. Clara's gaze softened just enough. Then show me. Show me without excuses, without hiding behind your family's power. Every choice from this moment on decides what remains. A sudden vibration startled them all. Another notification. Another document uploaded. This one detailed offshore accounts, unauthorized bonuses, and shell companies connected to the Blackwood trusts. Maureen's hand flew to her mouth. No, this can't be real. It's real, Clara said. Just like the humiliation you inflicted on me. Just like the money you withheld for my child's health. Real has consequences. Henry swallowed hard, his face pale. Clara, they begged for mercy at the table. Please, don't destroy them. She took a step back, placing a hand over her stomach. I'm not destroying them. I'm letting them destroy themselves if they continue to choose greed over integrity. I gave them every chance to choose differently. Lydia's sobs filled the room. Robert's hands clenched into fists. Maureen's breathing was sharp, shallow, desperate. Clara's phone buzzed one last time. Clinton's calm voice. Prepare yourself. They're requesting a conference call. All Blackwoods. They're scared now. Truly scared. But fear can be temporary. What you do next will decide if accountability sticks or they manipulate their way back into power. Clara looked at each of them in turn. Husband, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, and felt the weight of everything they'd done to her. If you've ever been silenced while someone else thrived on your suffering, she said quietly, almost to herself, pay attention. This is how silence breaks. This is how truth arrives. The phones buzzed again. Conference call initiated. Clara's chest tightened. She pressed play. And for the first time, the Blackwoods realized that their world, their illusions, their control, their untouchable empire, was collapsing in real time. The screen lit up with the incoming call. And just before she spoke, Clara whispered under her breath, let's see who really dares to own their actions. If you've ever watched someone abuse their power while pretending morality was on their side, don't scroll past. People like this only understand consequences. And tonight, they will learn the hard way. The call connected. All eyes were on Clara. And the next words she spoke would decide the Blackwoods' fate. The screen glowed in the dimly lit conference room, filling the faces of the Blackwoods with the harsh clarity of reality. Clara's image appeared large and unflinching, her eyes locking onto each of them as if she could see straight through their excuses and lies. Maureen's hands trembled as she gripped the edge of the conference table. Clara, you can't do this over a video call, she said, her voice sharp but shaking. We can talk. There's always a way to fix. Fix. Clara's voice cut through the room like ice. You think an apology fixes years of denial, humiliation, and greed? Fixing is admitting wrongdoing before you're caught. You never admitted anything. Robert leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. This is insane. You have no right. I have every right, Clara interrupted. Because I'm the one you tried to break. Because I'm the one you mocked while I carried your child. Because I'm the one who demanded what was mine, and you denied it for profit and pride. Lydia's lips trembled. Mom. Dad, please. Lydia, Clara said softly, your fear doesn't erase your choices. You used the family trust to pay for luxuries instead of people who actually needed your help. That's your accountability. Maureen's eyes darted to Henry. Your wife is overstepping, Henry. Don't let her. Henry didn't speak. His mouth opened, closed. The shame was palpable, like it physically weighed him down. Let me be clear, Clara said. You have 72 hours. That's all. Contractors must be paid. Foundation funds restored. Debts reconciled. Accounts transparent. No excuses. No hidden transfers. No hiding behind each other. And Henry, she paused, her voice softening just enough to cut deeper, you must prove you will stand with me, not against me, for our child and for me. Every second of delay will be noted, every misstep logged. Robert's hand clenched into a fist. You're going to ruin us. Clara leaned closer to the camera, eyes fierce. I'm not ruining you. You've been ruining yourselves for years. I'm just giving you the mirror. Maureen's voice rose, shrill now, breaking under pressure. You'll regret this. You think you can humiliate an entire family over a few vitamins? Over a few missed dinners? We built this. You have no idea. Clara's eyes narrowed. I have an idea. I've lived it. And now you will too. The line went silent for a moment. Then an alert appeared on all their phones. A secure message detailing the federal audit, the offshore accounts flagged, the shell companies identified, and every unexplained transfer, each one time-stamped and ready for review. Lydia let out a small gasp. Oh my God. Maureen sank back into her chair, her fingers pressed to her lips. This is going too far. Robert's face was pale, tight with panic. We can fix this, I swear. Just don't escalate further. Clara's hand rested over her belly, steady, protective. Fix it. You can't fix what you've been hiding from yourselves. The only thing you can do now is act responsibly. And believe me, failing that will only make the consequences worse. Henry's shoulders slumped, his eyes filled with guilt. Clara, I'm going to do everything. I promise. I'll stand with you. She didn't answer immediately. She let her gaze sweep over them. Let them feel the weight of the silence. The gravity. You see, she said finally, voice calm but deadly. You thought I was powerless. You thought a pregnant woman in a target dress, who you could control financially and emotionally, was disposable. And for that, every one of you is at risk now. Maureen's voice cracked. Please, Mercy. Don't destroy us completely. Clara's eyes softened just enough to make the fear sharper. Mercy comes after accountability. You've had years to prove worth. You failed. Your begging is not a defense, it's confirmation. Robert's phone buzzed. Another secure message. The audit results were being escalated, contractors were being notified, the bank was freezing personal accounts tied to the family trusts, and compliance officers were on their way. Maureen's hands flew to her face. We can't. This can't happen. Can't? Clara asked. The ability to act responsibly is what defines you. You didn't act. You chose greed over integrity, silence over honesty. And now you are learning what that means. Henry's head fell into his hands. Clara, please. They begged for mercy at the table. You don't need to humiliate them further. She leaned closer to the camera, her voice soft but slicing. I'm not humiliating anyone. I'm showing them the reflection of their own choices. You, Henry, have the chance to step up. You can protect our child and honor our family. Or continue as you have. Every second counts. Lydia's phone buzzed again. An email marked high priority. Compliance investigation escalated. All accounts frozen. Audit report filed with federal authorities. Maureen's eyes widened. This is beyond anything we could have imagined. Clara's gaze hardened. Yes. Beyond imagining is exactly where you should have been when you chose to ignore my needs, my health, my voice, and my dignity. Robert's chair scraped the floor as he stood, trembling. You're going to regret this. You're making enemies of us, of our entire network. I'm not making enemies, Clara said calmly. You already created your own. I'm just letting the truth catch up. Another alert appeared. Offshore transfers reversed. Contractor payments verified. Notices sent. Every move tracked. Every misstep catalogued. Maureen whimpered. Please, just tell me what to do. Tell us how to fix it. Clara's lips curved into the faintest hint of a smile. Start being honest. Start being accountable. Show up for your employees, your responsibilities, and your family, or watch as each choice unravels you further. Henry whispered, voice breaking. Clara, if we do this, if we follow through, will there be forgiveness? She looked at him, unwavering. Forgiveness comes after action. Until then, your fear, your failure, your silence, they are all on display. And it's time you face them. The call ended abruptly as Clinton muted the line and stepped into view. They're scared now, he said. But fear can be fleeting. Their next move will determine whether this accountability sticks, or if they claw back power through lies and manipulation. Clara's chest tightened. She placed a hand over her belly and took a steadying breath. Then let's see what happens when they realize that silence and manipulation no longer protect them. And somewhere across the city, the Blackwoods realized the true weight of the storm they had invited into their lives. Every lie, every manipulation, every ounce of cruelty, they had no more hiding places. If you've ever been silenced, gaslit, or denied what's rightfully yours, remember this. Power only belongs to those who use it to protect others, not to control them. And when someone finally stands up, The reckoning can be unstoppable. The conference line blinked. Another alert appeared. A whistleblower had provided additional evidence. The Blackwoods' fate was now teetering on the edge, and one wrong move would send everything crashing down. The knock came just after midnight. Sharp, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Maureen Blackwood froze mid-step, the crystal glass slipping from her fingers and shattering against the marble floor. She stared at the door as if it might explode. Robert was already backing away, his phone clenched in his hand, the screen still glowing with unanswered calls from lawyers who had suddenly stopped picking up. Lydia whispered, "Mom, that's not normal. Who knocks like that?" Another knock followed. Louder. Final. "Federal Compliance Office," a voice called out. "Open the door." Maureen's knees buckled. "Clara did this," she hissed. "She planned all of this. That girl." "Don't," Robert snapped, panic cracking through his authority. "This is bigger than her now." The door opened. Two agents stepped inside, calm, efficient, unreadable. Behind them came a woman in a tailored navy suit, tablet in hand, eyes already scanning the room as if she owned it. "Maureen Blackwood. Robert Blackwood. Lydia Blackwood," the woman said evenly. "You are all required to cooperate fully. Any attempt to obstruct this investigation will be noted." Maureen's voice shrieked. "This is harassment. We haven't done anything wrong." The woman looked up, unimpressed. "You redirected charitable funds while denying medical expenses to a pregnant dependent. That alone is enough to warrant tonight's visit." Lydia broke down sobbing. "It was just money. We didn't think." "That's the problem," the agent replied flatly. "You didn't think." Across town, Clara sat upright in bed, the soft hum of machines surrounding her as she monitored the cascade in real time. Henry stood near the window, pale, shaken, watching police lights flicker faintly in the distance. "They're finished," he murmured. Clara didn't answer immediately. Her hand rested on her belly, steady, grounding. "No," she said quietly. "They're being revealed." "That's different." Henry turned to her. "I should have stopped them. I should have stopped myself." She finally looked at him. "Yes, you should have. And now you have one chance to decide who you really are." His phone buzzed. A message from his mother. "Tell her to stop this. Tell her she's gone too far." He stared at it, then slowly locked the screen without replying. Back at the Blackwood estate, Maureen was screaming now, words tumbling out in desperation. "She married into this family. She owes us loyalty." The woman with the tablet didn't even blink. Loyalty doesn't excuse abuse. And marriage doesn't transfer ownership. Robert collapsed into a chair. "What do you want from us?" The answer came not from the agent, but from the tablet, as the woman turned it toward them. A live video feed appeared. Clara. Composed. Unmoved. "You want to know what I want?" Clara said. "I want the truth. I want restitution. And I want you to understand that the power you used to humiliate me was never yours to begin with." Maureen sobbed openly. "Please. I'll do anything. I'll apologize. I'll beg." Clara's eyes hardened. "You already begged. On the floor. Remember." Silence fell like a blade. "For years," Clara continued, "you denied, dismissed, and dehumanized me. You taught your daughter cruelty and called it confidence. You hid theft behind tradition. And when I needed something as small as vitamins for my unborn child, you chose control over compassion." She leaned forward slightly. "People like you rely on silence. On victims being too tired, too scared, too dependent to fight back. If you're watching this and you've ever been made to feel small for asking for what you need, this is your reminder. Don't normalize cruelty. Don't excuse abuse. And don't stay silent." The woman in the suit tapped her tablet. "All personal and trust accounts are now under extended freeze pending criminal review." Maureen screamed. Lydia collapsed. Robert stared at the floor, defeated. The feed cut. Henry exhaled shakily. What happens next? Clara's phone buzzed again. A new message. One she hadn't expected. Anonymous source ready to testify. Evidence involves Henry. Her breath caught. She looked up at him slowly, searching his face, not as a wife, but as a woman deciding the future of her child. Henry, she said softly, is there anything you haven't told me? His silence answered before his words ever could. And somewhere deep in the system, one final file began to upload, one that would decide whether redemption was still possible, or whether everything would burn all the way to the ground. The room felt smaller once the truth sat between them. Clara didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The kind of power she held now didn't require shouting. It required listening. Henry's hands trembled as he finally spoke. There were accounts, he said hoarsely. Minor ones. I told myself they were temporary. I told myself I'd fix it before you ever noticed. Clara held his gaze. You didn't fix it. No, he admitted. I protected them. I protected my family instead of protecting you. That was the moment something shifted, not in anger, but in clarity. Clara nodded once, as if confirming what she had already known. Outside, the city was waking. Somewhere across town, the Blackwood estate sat under surveillance, its gates sealed, its legacy unraveling in real time. News alerts were already circulating. Philanthropic trust under federal investigation. Elite family linked to financial abuse case. The world was catching up. Clara's phone buzzed again. Clinton's name flashed on the screen. They're done, her father said calmly when she answered. The evidence is airtight. Even if they avoid prison, they'll never regain what they lost. And Henry? She asked quietly. A pause. That depends on you. Clara looked at him again. The man who had watched her beg for prenatal vitamins. Who had stayed silent while his sister laughed and threw leftovers at her feet. Who had mistaken loyalty for morality. She placed a hand on her stomach, grounding herself. I won't shield him, she said. But I won't destroy him out of spite either. He'll face the consequences of his choices, publicly. Henry swallowed hard. I'll cooperate. I'll testify. I'll return everything. I'll do whatever it takes. She stood slowly, steady despite the weight she carried. Do it because it's right, she said. Not because you're afraid of losing me. He nodded, tears slipping freely now. I was afraid long before this, he whispered. I just chose the wrong things to fear. By noon, the press had gathered. Cameras lined the courthouse steps. Inside, Maureen Blackwood sat rigid, her face hollow, her pearls gone. Lydia stared at the floor, mascara streaked, no words left. Robert didn't look up at all. Clara walked past them without stopping. Not one glance. That was the cruelty they hadn't anticipated. Inside the courtroom, her testimony was calm, precise, devastating. She spoke of financial control, of denial of medical care, of humiliation disguised as family discipline. She spoke not as a victim begging for sympathy, but as a witness stating facts. When the judge asked if she wished to address the court directly, she paused. Yes, she said. Her eyes lifted, not to the Blackwoods, but to the gallery, to the cameras, to the people watching at home. There are people who believe power gives them permission to dehumanize others, Clara said evenly. They believe pregnancy makes a woman weak. That dependence makes abuse acceptable. That silence equals consent. She took a breath. They are wrong. Outside, millions would later watch the clip. Women would comment. Men would argue. Survivors would recognize themselves in her words. If you're watching this, Clara continued, and you've ever been denied basic care, dignity, or safety because someone controlled the money, the household, or the narrative, know this. You are not difficult. You are not dramatic. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong people. The courtroom was silent. The verdicts would come later. The sentences. The settlements. But the real judgment had already landed. That evening, Clara stood alone in the nursery of her new home. Light filtered through the curtains. The walls were soft, neutral, no excess, no control, no fear. Just space. Clinton stepped into the doorway. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "I am now." "And Henry?" She didn't answer immediately. "Some people don't lose everything," she said quietly. "They lose access. That's worse." Across the city, Henry signed document after document. Cooperation agreements. Public disclosures. Statements he never imagined making. His name would never be clean again, but his child would be safe. That was the price. Weeks later, as Clara prepared to give birth, another alert crossed her screen. Blackwood Holdings was permanently dissolved. She closed her eyes. Not in relief. In release. The past no longer chased her. It had been named. Exposed. Ended. And if you've stayed to the end of this story, understand why it matters. Because cruelty survives when it's tolerated. Because abuse hides behind family, tradition, and that's just how they are. Because the moment someone stands up, everything changes. If this story made you angry, good. That anger is clarity. If it made you uncomfortable, even better. Growth starts there. And if it made you feel seen, heard, or less alone, then stay. Subscribe. Share. Speak up. Because the world only changes when silence ends, and power finally answers to truth.